in German.
I don't know, man. Kendrick smiles a lot. I think he's a happy German.
Yeah, he's faking it just a little better than I do.
Oh, I see.
He has years of practice.
All right, guys, let's find out if we're going to see a God comp this game. Let's find out. If I could bring us back to the game for a second.
Wow.
Again, I'm in between these two
Did Wolf just
Europe
take my job?
casters.
I think Wolf, yeah, just took your job.
I'm saying it right. Right, Wolf?
What?
Oh, I think I heard an L.
Yeah, I'm nailing it, dude.
But by the way, I'm seeing a Tracer here.
Yeah.
So we are back to some Tracer plays, and this time it's SPT locking her in pretty quickly. So the first thing that we had after game number 1 is that Tempest decided, well, Maiev, that's not going to happen ever again. Now we have Genji banned out too, and that leaves one mobility character that we've seen a lot here, and that's Tracer. So let's see what SPT can do with her.
I think it would be really cool to see SPT draft Blaze now to prevent Tempest from taking it as sort of a countermeasures to Tracer, and just kind of essentially try to control that top lane, have a good countermeasure to the pulse bombs, because we already know that their go-to solo laner has been Malthael, and Tyrael shut it down super hard last game with the Sanctifications. This time Tyrael is going to be even harder to deal with in these types of fights because it's going to be on areas like the boss zone. So I feel like grabbing grabbing Blaze here would be the thing to do for SPT.
For
No.
me,
I'm like, anybody?
Well, for me, I'm wondering.
we're thinking.
I'm wondering if they're gonna go down their Grey main, which we saw earlier from them when they were facing off against LM. Tracer, Grey main were kind of their go-tos.
Oh, they went Malthael again. I don't like it.
Oh, there it is. Tracer, Malthael, and Garrosh coming out for SPT.
Now we still okay, Abathur being banned out, we have seen already in Abathur and Tracer composition a bit earlier. For me, it's a question again, what are we going to see as a support on the side of SPT? Uther is still around, we still have the Stukov option. The thing is that Malfurion has just been such an amazingly successful hero throughout the tournament itself, but also for Tempest in particular. When they have played 3 games with Malfurion and they won every single one of them. And Malfurion has in so many games just been the perfect hero when it comes to the support role. Just simply, first of all, because he's insanely good at supporting, but also the CC amount that he has, and just like the utility synergizes with so many
any
heroes.
attack, basically.
With so many heroes that we have, it's fantastic. Not only is it protecting, it's like that guy has so many setups that he has through roots alone.
Control and safety, he gives it all, plus healing.
Twilight Dream.
Yeah.
Try and engage into him, ult hits, and all of a sudden the fight is turned around.
I think that they're trying to decide they want to ban Blaze or want to ban Zeratul. And they go with the Zeratul ban after watching Good. His first time in 2018 playing the hero was pretty impressive for SPT. The Full Age shutting down a lot of the stuff that SPT was trying to do. Empowering most of all the Twilight Dreams, sometimes the Blizzards there as well. I think this is a wise ban. Blaze can now be picked up as the solo laner. It's a pretty obvious pick. It's a tough one against Malthael in terms of the matchup, but in terms of team fighting, you've already got Tyrael on your side. You've got that plus the bunker. You can use the bunker to set up a sanctification point. There's so many reasons why Blaze fits this draft.
By the way, just also highlighting that we have so far not seen a Nubarak banned in this game. This is something that SPT has done in both of the previous maps because they, as a first ban, because they said, well, this is a bit too dangerous. With Tyrael, you can still play a Nubarak and you can dive in with both of the heroes. So it is a big option for Tempest if they want it.
Greymane and a Nubarak are the 2 that I'm looking for. One of them to be picked up in this rotation. Greymane gets picked up, and there's a Thrall coming out for Tempest.
I could have seen both.
Yeah, you know, the thing is, when you see Thrall in the past, it would be okay, that's their solo laner, but it hasn't really been played like that. It's been played in 4-mans this tournament, so I think there's still a possibility that the Nubarak you guys are describing could come true here because they picked Thrall. Because you can leave Tyrael in the solo lane, you can roam around a little bit with this composition. Greymane gives you camp control, so you're not as concerned about that. But I think part of the reason why the Nubarak was banned was because they wanted to run Uther. Uther is so strong with Malthael. I think if they pick the Uther here to give Malthael the opportunity to use Tormented Souls, first of all, that's going to make Malthael stronger, although we already talked about the Sanctification, but that does mean that potentially Tempest would want that Nubarak pick even more.
I also have to say that I feel Thrall and Greymane against Tracer are fantastic. Now, Greymane has always been a hero that does well against Tracer, but with Thrall, you have the point and click with the lightning, and once you get the stacks up there, and you have your 16 as well, you do a fair amount of damage. So whenever Tracer comes in, it's simply a point and click that puts her under pressure already.
Stukov coming out instead, as well as Tychus, a bit more safer here for SPT.
Yeah, it almost makes me feel like we might see something like a Muradin instead, something safer, or maybe a more traditional solo laner.
I'm still sold on a Nubrak here.
I mean, I think he certainly could be strong. The problem with the Nubrak, as we saw from Blossom in a previous series against Ballistics, is if he gets aggressive against the CC of Garrosh, Tychus Grenade can help you lock in, and Stukov Silence. If Stukov sees you coming in with the Burrow Charge, you're not going out. You know, you're going to get stuck there, you're going to take a ton of damage. I mean, you can also prevent people from Burrow Charging away if you have a setup yourself. Nubrak is strong here. I feel like the biggest thing that I don't like about picking a Nubrak is you just don't get much out of Cocoon. And I feel like even a potential Mosh Pit, if you could lock down Stukov, would be very strong here.
Well, if Malthael doesn't go for Last Rites, but still goes into Dominant Soul, then Nubrak Cocoon would immediately shut it down.
Yeah.
It would basically force Last Rites out of your opponent if you
He's
go
going
for
to go Falstad. So he's going to be, I guess, the more off-lane hero in this case. So Tyrael's going to end up being the tank. We don't have any sort of tanky top laner. It's just going to be the Falstad who plays the global game. Thrall is going to be stacking up his Q in the 4-man.
That's also an insane amount of control over the boss pit. With Tyrael, Sanctification,
Yep.
Falstad, Mighty Gust, they have all the tools that they need to really control any fight that happens there. Because before that, you could have made the argument, okay, what happens if like Garrosh goes in and is able to get a good taunt off, for example, and then you stack the damage on top of it, you stack the silence, but now you have Gust as well next to Sanctification. So you are in a spot where every fight that you have in a 5 versus 5 battle over the boss should end in your favor.
Yeah, I'm concerned that there's not any way to deal with burst damage coming out from... If Thrall throws out a Sundering, right, Falstad and Greymane go in a target, Falstad uses his Boomerang, you've got Greymane coming in to finish the damage off. I just don't think Stukov is going to be able to out-heal that burst. Yeah. They're also not going to be able to use Tormented Souls to do damage when Sanctification's on the other side, boss control aside. So this is going to be tough, I think, for SPT. Of the 3 drafts we've seen in this best of 5, I feel like this one is the hardest to win with. This is the weakest of the 3.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a bit rough, also considering the momentum that Tempest has by now, because they have been playing an absolutely fantastic series, especially when you look at the second map. Struggling a bit on the first map, but then really just absolutely crushing it from there on out.
Looks like SPT is going to play very aggressively in this early game. The pre-heals coming down from ZZH.
Also, a slight adjustment here to just pick that in. We have Thrall not with Crash Lightning, but actually heading into Rolling Thunder here, so making
So he is going to be the solo laner, I guess, at least for the time being. He's going to be there in the off lane. Greymane's pushing bottom, and SPT, because they went for a 5-man gank attempt, sure, they were able to clear mid faster, but they're losing minions in the other lanes. That's why they're behind in experience at the moment.
Yeah. So Rolling Thunder taken instead of that, so you already have the passive range increase on the Chain Lightning and the additional number of bounces. So definitely solo lane potential for him. Even if you go into Crash Lightning, you can at the beginning of the game solo lane. You will not be able to stack as fast. But if you are forced into it, then it's an option. They could have also decided to get either Falstad or Greymane into that position. They decided against that. But just a slight adjustment here when we're talking about good on the hero.
So Greymane obviously has one of the quickest camp times in the game and is going to be working to rush down these siege camps. The first one already being invaded by SPT, however, knowing this timing right at 1 minute when it spawns. Gonna heavily commit to this. Lockdown's on the other side here. Tyrael trying to do what he can here, but he's silenced. He can't move. Finally, we're gonna see a kill traded here. Stukov is gonna be the one dead on SPT. Lockdown barely going down here as well, with Melody C having that tether with the damage. Molly doing a ton of damage on his own. He goes down, but the trade here is positive for SPT, who not only wins the fight, but steals the camp. And I think it all goes back to that silence placed on top of Tyrael there.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. 2-for-3 trade, and SPT from the get-go was aiming to go for the camp. And Tempest thought that he could fight it, especially with Falstad having the global available, of course. But SPT had basically everybody in that battle and immediately committed to it. So great decision-making on their part. They trade up and they get the camp on top of it, which now results in them running with an experience lead and a lot of pressure that they pushed onto the bot lane.
Not going to invade this camp, just going to trade it. We will see Malthael take the red side Knight camp as Tempest commits 2 to this one. Falstad's cleared the Siege Giant camp to the bottom. They're going to get their own Giants, though, so they've got that edge in terms of camp control at the moment.
Yeah, they can time it properly, just wait a bit longer and make sure that the camp that moves through the top lane for Tempest will arrive in tower range, so that SPT has a much easier time defending their own wall and utilizing their own camp. There is a 4-man pushing with it though they have to be a little bit cautious, and now they are facing it in equal force.
That's right. We have a lot of poke on the side of Tempest though. Dami just trying to do as much as he can to the wall. Misaka though gets the toss right into the silence. Dami is the target here. Does get away, but the silence is still doing a lot here. Finally, shields coming through from Tyrael, and they will, of course, escape. Meanwhile, we do have that little tussle we had at that tussle in the bottom lane for a long time, but Tracer eventually decided to rotate up, looks for this pick on Sign. Unsuccessful, but Falstad with that global in the bottom lane continues to gain an experience advantage here, catching them up to 6.
Nice move, going for Sign and getting the kill. Tyrael is down. Good on the other hand with a counter kill against Stukov. Great move by Thrall here. Nice damage output by him. So an even trade in this situation, but we have, through all of this, Malthael up at the top lane, taking the control over the temple, as Tempest is just now moving into the middle to aim for the trade.
Because they have this they have this advantage in terms of temple time at the moment. Tychus is willing to rotate bottom to gain some more experience to make up for what they had lost by Lockdown being down there alone for so long. So we get an extra wave is coming up mid now to grab this wave and then look for potentially even a pick. Lockdown, does not get hit by that pulse bomb. That would have been a kill for sure.
Yeah, well, now Dami is in trouble and he goes down. And we had SPT also with a pressure play thanks to their own camp at the top. It wasn't only the control over the shrine that put so much pressure onto Tempest, it was the mercenary camp as well. And now SPT has safely taken the shrine in the middle and is getting a massive amount out of these two temples.
Yeah,
they've been able to
they
capture.
basically got a tempo and a half, didn't really miss any soak. And now they're a whole level ahead. They were half a level ahead. His final shots will basically get them up to that full level point. They're looking for even more as they push down this final cannon tower. SPT basically just controlling this game via aggression. And I think that the smartest thing they've done from start to finish was to invade that Siege Giant camp. From that point on, they were no longer really under duress from the global of Falstad. They set the pace of the game. And I like how aggressive they're being. They're a Chinese team that's not afraid to look for more than just a temple trade.
That's actually the one thing that I find so funny about SPT here. Great escape by Melody C, by the way, but Lockdown flies in and he flies in deep. He goes down as the silence is immediately there. CCH with a perfect reaction, and they get the second kill against Tyrael too. Great play here, and great reaction time, by the way, from Stukov in particular.
That was fantastic. ZZH's Stukov has really impressed me this tournament. From silence placements to quick reaction on shoves. I mean, the guy is really well versed on how to deal with some of these aggressive dives. I feel like we're seeing a little bit of Lockdown and Dami running their heads into the wall to a certain extent on how hell-bent they are on getting these kills, and they've given away a lot of kills to SPT. They're going to give away with that last attempted pick that failed another Siege Giant camp. This entire game has been controlled by SPT's defensive kills that have led to camp captures.
I can't help myself but look at how SPT plays and just feel that every single game, every map that we've seen, they went full aggression and either it worked or it didn't. And they never really changed the plan. So they always just, they go into one direction. It's attack, 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 attack. Either it works from the get-go and you walk away with an advantage and you're able to run with it, or your opponent is able to defend and eventually overcome you, but they just keep on that one track. We've seen it on Dragonshy where it nearly worked out, but they didn't get enough value, and then it completely backfired on Infernal Shrines. But so far in Sky Temple, it seems to be successful for them.
Well, it's gotten them 10 first. We'll see if they want to commit to using Warlord's Challenge here to taunt Tempest into a bad team fight. The Temple is active. Falstad is already headed down there. SPT is going to make a big collapse. Falstad will need to be careful about the rotation down of Tracer. Tracer did just use her Pulse Bomb for an unsuccessful pick, so at least he's got the ability to avoid death that way. Just looks for a good trade. Barrel rolls over. Although, caught by Misaka, there's the toss. He's going to die regardless.
That's a really great kill. And
that was well executed.
I was just about to say, I would have even preferred them to go for boss as they hit 10. Because, as we said before, with Sanctification and Mighty Gust being available on the side of Tempest, Tempest has an insane amount of boss control. And this is really the boss that you can safely get at the beginning that will put the boss out of play for a long time and therefore limit the options of Tempest to play around the situations that SPT creates here.
It might even be the only realistic boss they could hope to take this game 5v5. And now, every other 5v5 boss with heroics available for Tempest, boss control is massively theirs with Twilight Dream, Sank, Gust. Looks like the taunt is going to be committed to here, though Cyan is in position for a Sank. Interrupted, though, by that shove, but Soap is solo. Here comes the Sundering. Lockdown with the defensive gust. Triple silence.
Yeah, good silence here, but once again, Lockdown is having a lot of trouble flying in with his global because he always ends up in a lot of pressure. Now we have Thrall dying first, and you could even see that Lockdown had to use Gust to simply save himself from Tychus. Every time he flies in right now, he overshoots a bit and he ends up in a position where he's under pressure and needs to disengage, use an ult, and it's not really working out for him.
It's been pretty uncharacteristic mistakes out of him this game. I feel like this could have also been another opportunity for boss control. Sank wasn't used in that last fight, but they were pretty far away from boss. It was a far fight in the top lane, close to the fort, so they play it more passively. They're going to control camps. They're going to push top. They have the 13 talent tier advantage, but again, Tempest has respawned, and they've missed their opportunity to look for a boss.
Now the big advantage for SPT lies in the structures that they have eliminated from the map on Tempest's side. Since the objective, of course, attacks structures directly, Tempest is in a situation where they have to be very careful because those temples are very soon going to attack keeps directly.
That's true. Structural disadvantage, very annoying this early into the game. That only means the temples will attack directly, but also the boss will go directly to the keep as well. It means that controlling the boss, which their comp is so good at, needs to continue. They are actually losing these Siege Giant camps, which is going to force some attention away. SPT is going to take this as their opportunity. They just saw Tyrael go top to control the watchtower. They know Falstad's up there, so this is an opportunity. They can burst this down quickly. They have Malthael. I don't think Tempest can contest this, but here comes Tyrael. Falstad will have to fly down if they really want to fight this. Here we go. Boss stun comes in. Here's the Aldruins. Sundering committed, and here comes Falstad.
Falstad is in, and the boss is taken. So boss stolen away. Here's the kill, not only against Malthael, but also against Stukov. Down goes Tychus. And that's exactly why we said that SPT cannot win a fight.
It was the only fight they could almost do it. They rushed it as quickly as they could. And even with the boss helping against Tyrael, because of the way that the stun was placed there, he still did it perfectly. Falstad still got there in the nick of time. And this boss control is just unprecedented. It's unparalleled. SPT cannot take these fights on even terms 5v5.
I'm really frustrated watching SPT play. It's great aggression. It's oftentimes, when they have a good teamfight composition, very good controlling coordination, even with the sub-player. But when it comes to calls on the map, on macro calls, it is, I'm sorry to say, it's a disaster. They had 2 temples coming up. They had a 2-level lead, a talent advantage. Tempest was playing so defensive because on every step of the way they were being shut down. And all that SPT had to do was wait and take 1, maybe 2 temples. They had a structure advantage on the map where they would have started to pressure keeps very soon. And what do? They give Tempest, who have the most insane control over the boss area, the one fight that they can't give them. They lose 3 heroes, they lose the entire advantage. Tempest, instead of 2 levels behind, are now a level ahead.
Tempest is the first to hit the keep with the temple shots.
It's honestly insane that that SPT does not have a better macro play than this.
It really goes to show the reason why it would have been so easy for them to take these temples. The fact of the matter is Falstad was top because he was dealing with the top pressure. Mid pressure was there as well. Bot pressure, they had vision control. Could have easily forced a fight on their terms where they weren't going to maximize the value of these heroics, the Sundering, the Twilight Dream, the Sank, the Gust, and they took the one fight, they got greedy, they thought they could do both, get the boss to allow the temples. They didn't need the boss to get the temples, and they're paying for it big time now. The keep survives, and so their chances of this game, snowballing against them from this moment on are less, but they're not going to have many more shots of taking fights like this. I feel like they should play safer. The map control they had, though, that was their biggest asset, is completely gone now.
Yeah, it's absolutely gone. They're actually behind, not only in experience, but also from a structure point of view, they are behind in the game now. They still have their team fight. They still have the option to, through team fights, take Tempest down, get the kills, and play the game. But the scaling into the late game is now starting to get better for Tempest. They have more tools that they can use here, and they are really attempting to pressure SPT. With a level 16 talent, SPT has to play this just a little bit safe until they get that bit of tickle experience for the next talent. And that is time that Tempest is trying to use to pressure the top and maybe get a tower or 2.
Yeah, even this silence that Stukov is using is just not very effective with the spell armor here coming from the wizard minions. This is just free siege. They have Greymane, they have Malfurion. This is a comp that can siege this wall pretty easily. SPT plays it safe though. They don't even get that cannon tower, just a little bit of damage. 16's up for SPT now. Gonna look for maybe a fight here at the night camp. Tempest walks away. The boss is probably about a minute and a half away. Not really going to be a factor during this temple phase. And SPT has to spend time not getting into position, not getting into an advantageous situation here, but actually cleaning up the mess that Tempest just sent towards their base in terms of minion waves.
And SPT needs to look for a fight, because the problem that they have, now that they are actually starting to be behind in experience, it wasn't an issue when they were 2 levels ahead, but they are still playing against Falstad. So they still play against a global that now, with all the space that was created on the map, with so much vision gone through the forts being eliminated, can start to really get that extra experience.
I like this.
Melody C with a really cool attempt to negate it, trying to take him down here. That's not going to work out, but it was close, so that was well done. But Falstad is going to be that wild card that can, in the macro.
Oh, they're going for the counter kill with the Gust, or
excuse me,
with the Flight. Well, I guess the Flight wasn't really necessary here. It was just to make sure Melody C couldn't run the other way. Recall was already used. He's dead. It almost felt like it was baited. It almost felt like Falstad knew, that thought Lockdown knew he was in there. He was so ready to deal with that.
They gave up a fair amount of shots, though, because of it, since we had both of the temples taken by SPT. But now Falstad is pushing the bot lane with the Siege Giant camp, so this should be key.
This might be a fight that SPT could win. What will they get from it? That's the question. Sank, though, is going to turn around. Oh, the Sundering and the triple!
Oh my
right
God.
after that, the silence. Holy ground! That is the end of this series, I feel, Counter. ZZH to last to die. The worst place for SPT to fight. And yet again, they lose a fight that is because of the positioning, the choke point, the sanctification. They've lost so much. GG is called. And they lost so many fights against Sanctification. Tyrael was their problem in this series, oftentimes that, and of course some of the macro calls you were talking about. But this lost fight cost them the series and their tournament life.
Yeah, that is game right there. Great fight from Tempest. Extremely well done. The Sundering alone just clubbing now perfectly, and then the follow-up immediately, getting the silence and the Sank in. Tempest takes it with a 3-0. Well done by Tempest. Patient play, and they took some perfect fights. But once again, in my opinion, a big throw on the side of SPT. 2 levels ahead, structurally ahead, in a perfect position to claim 2 temples that were about to spawn. And then they go for a boss battle that they must have known, even with the talent advantage and the level advantage, could turn against them, just because Tempest has the perfect composition and the perfect heroic abilities to play it. And at that point, the entire game just flips.
Yeah, it was really just a greedy move, thinking that with the Malthael composition that they had and the damage that they have,